Leaders of Tomorrow, India's largest platform for entrepreneurs. I'm Sunanda Jaiseelan. If it matters to you, it matters to us. All of your questions related to every aspect of education. If you, as a student, have any questions for our experts, this is the show where you get them answered. Today, we're continuing to take in all of your questions live here on the show. Let's dive right in and introduce our experts tonight. First up, Ankur Warikoo, founder Nearbuy.com. We also have Akshay Chaturvedi, founder CEO, Leverage Edu. Gentlemen, thank you both very much for taking the time to speak with us here on the show, for answering some of the questions that have come to us from our viewers, and really talking about why we've seen these changes, what are the careers of the future, and all of that. Before we go any further, though, I really want to understand from you, Ankur, maybe I could come to you first. What have perhaps been the biggest changes that we've seen thanks to the pandemic? Everyone is saying yes, digital, more small businesses, because we're speaking with SMEs, MSMEs, and startups. So even your traditional businesses perhaps have moved more and more to becoming tech or digital first. But beyond just that, what perhaps have been the one or two big changes that you've seen that you want to sort of, as a trend, flag off for us as we start?
Firstly, thanks, Sunanda, for having me. I think this is a very pertinent question because the world's changing so rapidly, and it has in the last 1.5 years. Since we're focused on education, I think that the biggest beneficiary, and Akshay will testify to that, have been students, because perhaps for the first time they've realized that technology is such a massive enabler where they're not limited geographically to the instructors that they were used to in the past. There is no definition of a school or a college anymore. The world's their playground. If I want to study chemistry, I can study it from the best professor of chemistry in the world. And the same goes for marketing, the same goes for sales, the same goes for finance. And the entire world of education has now opened up, which is both a challenge because now the access is a lot more democratic, but then it is also a massive opportunity because now there's no excuse for you to not be a student the way you always wanted to.
Akshay, education has also responded by, at least primary, I'm talking about, largely moving to an online model. Just give us one, talk to us about your company, your business, just an introduction for our viewers. And
Sure.
also, sitting where you are, what have been the biggest changes that education has seen in the past year and a half?
Sure. So first of all, thank you so much for having me and Leverage to do on your show. I think I can recall two big things, two big changes, two big trends that have happened in the last 2.5 years. I think the first one is that, and I call this, India has very pertinently moved towards what I call the post 3 idiot generation, where people have realized that I can do what I'm really good at and I can really make a successful career at it. And thanks to that, I think more than 70% people on our platform, we are now the biggest study abroad platform in this country, are opting for courses which were not as popular when I started this business. They're opting for luxury fashion management, brand marketing, nutrition, journalism, fashion, culinary arts, space engineering, whatnot, right? So that is one big change. And I think that is a very, very pertinent change. That is something that is really going to help people do something where they will really enjoy their lives out. I think the second thing that we've realized, and while I agree to a very large degree with things moving online, I think we've also realized that a large segment of higher education cannot be disfranchised or kind of completely broken down like a lot of other categories have. So, for example, if I'm going to college, while I can study what I want on the internet, while I can essentially get access to some of the best professors in the world, but I can't have the same bonhomie that I would with the Fortune 500, somebody who sits on the board of a big company, sitting out with them across their desk, or living by myself in a foreign country, or learning a host of things. So I think we have also realized that higher education cannot be broken down into just online. And hence this year we are seeing that as soon as the rebound year came forward, there are a lot more people who are kind of looking to be back at campuses as well. So I think the future is more hybrid. It's a mix of things that can be done online really well, things that can be done offline really well and cannot be replicated online. And I think that's going to kind of make higher education really exciting in the coming few years.
All right, with that as an introduction, let's dive right in, listening to all of the viewer queries which are coming to us. The first one I understand is a soundbite coming to us from Niharika Soni.
Hi, my name is Niharika. I just wanted to know the overall procedure of a student loan. What are the interest rate charged and how is the student supposed to pay the loan back within the given time period? Thank you.
Akshay, do you want to take this one on?
Sure. That's a very interesting question. I myself took an education loan for my MBA when I went to ISB about 7 years back. And I think it's interesting to be doing this with Ankur because he was a big reason why I went to ISB all those years back. And I've had the fortune of telling this to him in person. But just coming back to the question, I think you need a couple of things to take care of your academic document starting from class 10. Your test scores, you could have given GMAT, GRE, SAT, IELTS, SPT, TOEFL, all of these, your passport, your Aadhaar and PAN, and in most cases, you would also have had a co-signer. So you need the co-signer's documents, you need the co-signer's financial documents, and of course, you need your offer letter, which you got from the university. Generally, in India, you get education loans between the interest rates of 9 to 13%. And you generally require a co-signer or a property that you're mortgaging against it. There are three ways to repay it. One is, of course, you start an EMI right away as soon as you take the loan, as soon as it kind of gets disbursed. Second is you pay a simple interest till the time you kind of are doing your studies. You pay a simple interest and then essentially you start paying a principal plus interest as soon as you kind of get into a job. And the other is essentially you pay a partial interest. So that depends on how kind the bank which is lending the education loan to you really is. And so you can essentially give a partial interest much further up and then essentially get into an EMI of your choice as you move forward, post your studies and you get a job. Another important thing to note here is that a lot of students these days, I think in the last 3 years, opt for kind of foreclosing their educational loan in the first 3 to 5 months. So for example, if I'm an Indian student who's going to the US and saying that, hey, I took a loan for 11%, and tomorrow another bank in the US is giving me the same loan at 3%, so I can close off this account and after 3 months of disbursement, and then I can essentially take another loan, refinance my education loan at about 3 to 5%, which is the standard operating rate in the West. So I think a lot of people are doing that as well. And education loan as a category is also kind of completely redoing itself at the moment.
Okay. Niharika, that's a very detailed answer, and I trust that answers your query. We do get a lot of questions as far as taking student loans are concerned. So this is going to be of relevance to everyone who's wondering, should you not, and how do you go about taking a loan? Let's jump right in and take in our next question. This is coming to us on Twitter. Sonu Singh says she's 18. Is there really a career which can be made out of options like social media influencers, etc.? My mentors and parents say these are not really viable options. However, a lot of my peers are seriously considering these career paths and options. What do you recommend? Ankur, to you first. We are going to be in conversation with Bhuvan Bham, India's largest YouTuber, and he says, yes, there's money to be made. You need to keep at it, but that's like any other career. What would you have to say to Sonu?
I'd say the same thing. And if it's coming from Bhuvan, who has been so successful at it, you have to take it at the value that he brings in. Look, there are two sides to it. One is the side of your parents and their generation. And you have to understand that it's reasonable on their behalf to be somewhat skeptical of it because they did not grow up in the world that we are growing up in, or you are growing up in, Sonu, where access to internet, access to the entire social media platform is just so real and so fundamental to your existence. So please understand that they want the same things for your life that you want for yours. They may have a different path suggested to get to that point, but it's not that they want different things from you. Having said that, just as Bhuvan also mentioned, the journey for cracking a hobby and converting it into a profession is intensely hard, and it will never get easy, whether it is becoming a doctor, an engineer, or a social media influencer. It looks fancy and glamorous. It's like how most likely your parents were enamored by becoming Amitabh Bachchan and Sridevi in their days because that was the aspiration and the glamour. And today it would be becoming a Lily Singh or someone like Bhuvan. But the idea is it is still hard and it is never going to get easy. So please don't be driven by the glamour of it. There is a lot of work that goes behind it, but it is an absolute legit profession. There is serious money to be made. It can replace any job, any career at its best paying scale as well. It comes with a lot of hard work.
One thing that I love asking is, should you have a backup option? For whatever career you may be pursuing, whatever, not a course, but say a career. Do you always have maybe the side hustle, the side gig, if in case this doesn't work, if you're just starting out?
So I have a slightly different thesis around that. I believe that
Mm.
financial stability is extremely important in life, and a lot of
Yeah,
people dismiss it because it feels like
yeah,
you're becoming a slave or you're becoming someone
yeah.
of a conformist of sorts. I believe that you should have financial stability, whether it comes through a job, whether it comes through any other means, and use your nights and weekends intensely for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years to work on your passion and slowly convert that into a profession. If you don't have a job and you put the pressure of making money on your hobby on day one, you most likely will fail, because that's a lot of pressure to bear with for a hobby that you still haven't figured how it makes money. So please be practical about it. You have a long, long way to go, Sonu. You're only 18. I would say you join college, and the next 4, 3, 5 years, whatever that duration is going to be on college, take your classes, just pay the minimum attention that your parents
Okay.
would want you to and you would have to, and then devote all your time to just exploring all possible opportunities, social media influencing being one of them. At the end of 4 years, you will have a plan.
I have to take a quick commercial break on that note. We're back in just a moment. Welcome back. You're with us here on this very special week-long series we're doing here on the Leaders of Tomorrow, all of August, where we're focusing on the education space. Today, two experts joining us to talk about all things education, taking in questions from you, the viewer. Let's go back and listen to what our experts are saying. Let's move on to our next question. Prapti Segal has sent us this question. She says, will I stand a good chance of getting that dream job or getting promoted if I don't necessarily have a fancy degree from a foreign university? What do your experts suggest? Ankur, to you first. And Akshay, if you want to jump in, please feel free to do so.
No, I think you're putting a lot of pressure on this to say that if you don't have a foreign degree or if you don't have a degree from a fancy institute, you're going to fail in life. That's clearly not true, because you have
Okay.
enough and more examples doing that. What is true, though, is that people who go to really good colleges, they have a good head start. So they might
Okay.
make the break into a great company or a great title, and others may have to prove their worth through their hard work. But if you draw it out over a really long period of time, make it 5 or 10 years, or even more, you will see virtually very little difference between the ones who went to the finest colleges and the ones who worked really hard despite not going to great colleges and still made it.
Okay. This next question is for both of you. This is, just to understand from you, since we were talking about careers in social media, etc. Ankur, to you first. Your advice for someone who's looking at those, sort of out there careers. Should you be looking at those, or like you're saying, work, make the money, and then perhaps look at shoring up your finances for these courses? Should you follow what maybe everyone around you is doing? Should you stick your neck out when it comes to your career? At what point do you say passion versus, hobby versus essentially something that makes sense, is a rational choice?
So the truth is that very few of us, particularly in the 20s, will find themselves in a job that from day one fulfills them. And that's true for most of us. We somehow
Mm.
meandered and landed up on the right opportunity for us eventually. But early on, we were just as clueless, as confused as everyone else. So if you were one of those lucky few that started with a career that is bang in the middle of your passion and your profession, congratulations, you've cracked it. But for most others who haven't, my suggestion will remain, as I said, please do not dismiss that job just because it doesn't feed your soul, because what it does is it practically gives you the financial stability which is critical in today's world. but
Okay.
keep working on your passion and your hobbies, and don't stick to just one. Keep exploring. Like, I personally suggest people pick up these 1 month sprints in product management or in product development. A sprint is a very important timeline, and I would say career should be looked at 1 month sprints when you're evaluating. So for a month, become a student of a new career option. Let's say it's social media
Okay.
influencing. So you, for a month, devote yourself to finding out everything that there is that it takes to become a social media influencer. Pick up courses that you can. Speak to individuals who are doing it. Speak to individuals who used to do it but are not doing it anymore. Identify what works, what doesn't work, what kind of money, what
Okay.
kind of work, what kind of skills, so on. And then at the end of that 1 month, ask yourself, do I want to continue with this because I like what I heard, or do I feel this is not for me and I want to move on to the next sprint? And keep doing that. There is no stopping. The 20s should not be a decade for you to settle, as much as the world wants you to settle. Like shadi kar lo, ghar bana lo, vacation shuru kar lo, and all that. Use your 20s to explore. Don't use it to settle. If you explore and explore
Sure.
right in your 20s, then use your 30s to double down on that, so that by the time you are 40, you either love what you do and it doesn't feel like work, or you've made so much of money that you don't have to work anymore.
Actually, do you want to add to that?
So I completely agree with what Ankur said. I would just
Hmm.
add to it by saying that while there are a lot of new courses that we speak about very fondly, social media influencer being one of them that we're discussing a couple of times here on this show, I think a lot of old courses as well, which are very different, that students are pursuing, have been pursuing for the last many years, that we need to kind of focus more on as well. And for example, at Leverage Edu, we believe Vasudev Kutumbakam, the word is a family. And we tell people that, hey, when you're pursuing something you're really good at, you need to be in a country or you need to be in a region which is the right respect and the right economic opportunity for a career as well. For example, if you're pursuing automotive, you could be great in Germany. If you're pursuing fashion, you need to be in France. If you're pursuing sports management, you could be in Australia or in the UK. If you're pursuing manufacturing or pharma, you need to be in India. So I think given the world has become much more closer thanks to technology, there are
Okay.
great opportunities for us to kind of look at the world as an oyster. So I think it's a good chance for us to also go back to saying identifying really early. And I think there's a method to madness. That's something that we really kind of believe that
Sure.
we are adding to the word. And try and identify really early. I think completely agree with Ankur. Could you really kind of pursue every career for a month? Or could you really essentially put yourself through exercises where you're meeting a lot of people and trying to understand what is good for you at a very early age? And if you're able to do that, if you're able to kind of give up that time, it will really add tremendous value in terms of how you will lead your 20s and then your 30s, like Ankur.
Okay, let's take in our next question then. And this one is coming to us on Facebook, on our Facebook page. How can you also send us your questions? Those details will come to you at the end of the show. Do stay tuned for that. For the moment, let's take in our next viewer question. Rati Jayaraman, she says she's 19. How do I know what a fair or entry level salary is when I'm going for campus placements? Do I ask the company directly? Will it seem as if I'm being greedy and will it perhaps impact my chances of getting placed with reputed firms who are coming for these campus placements? A very good question. I know it changes and depends on what industry you're looking at joining, etc. But as a thumb rule, Ankur, to you first, what would be your advice for someone who's starting out, but also perhaps someone who spent say 5 years or 10 years as a working professional? What advice would you want to give them?
So, considering this one, which is Rati, who's a fresher, Rati, you have it easy, and I don't mean this as any disrespect. You basically don't have any precedent. So, because you've not worked
Yeah.
before, there is no compensation benchmark, nothing whatsoever. So, trust the organization, because the organization already has its own checks and balances over what they usually pay freshers, and it's unlikely that you can negotiate your way up, because it's more or
Okay.
less a very tight range that it would be as a combination of the college that you are from or the role that you're sitting for. So I'd encourage you to just focus not on the money, but the learning and the opportunity side of it early on in your career. Because if you do that well, then the avenues for you to increase your money thereafter will be far more than you sitting on a higher foundation or sum of money right now. For people who are
Okay.
much further ahead, 5 years, 10 years, and are looking for job changes, this is often asked that what's the right way to negotiate your compensation when you're
Yeah.
sitting for job interviews? How do you even get to have a sense of it? Look,
Yeah.
the truth is that there are no excuses anymore for you not to know what that range is nowadays. There is enough and more open access information that is available to you through platforms such as Glassdoor, where they will give you the ranges basis your functions, basis your location. You should do the hard work of finding that
Okay.
out from people who have worked in the organizations before and so on. Be prepared and go with that preparation, because if you have data backing yourself up as against an emotion that I would love to have more money, you will come across as someone who's far more capable of having a good negotiation.
Okay, so your recommendation is not if you're a fresher, but if you are in the junior to mid level, yes, do your homework and don't be shy about asking for more money if needed. Akshay, you
Absolutely.
want to add to that?
So I think I completely agree to what Ankur said. I can just look internally. I think Ankur has hired for years and years, so his experience on this is kind of far more than mine is. But today, I think if I look back internally, we are about 400 people at Leverage Edu, and I think 250 to 300 of them are completely freshers. And I completely agree to what Ankur said there. I would like to add that I think it plays out for the first 12 to 18 months. But I think if somebody's really amazing, if somebody's kind of really showing that dedication and is really able to show that aptitude towards learning new things, they can really move within the organization. And their career journey from month 18, I think, to month 30 or month 36, it can be like much different based on how they play out their first 12 to 18 months. And I think that is something that people should essentially aim for. That is the attitude with which I think they should enter the workforce.
All right, Ankur, Akshay, thank you so much for your time here on the show. It's been a very interesting chat with the both of you. Thank you for answering all of those questions which have come to us from our viewers. If you have questions about any aspect of your business as an entrepreneur, or if you're a student who has any questions for our experts, do send them in. Our contact details are coming up on your screens as we speak. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.